The Galactic Council chambers stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal, its transparent dome revealing the swirling nebulae of the Andromeda approach. 1,200 species had representatives here, their various forms creating a symphony of alien anatomy under the artificial starlight. Yet every eye, sensor, and consciousness node focused on the small delegation of bipedal mammals seated in the most modest section of the chamber. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat perfectly still, her hands folded in her lap, watching the Zeltharian Prime Minister gesture wildly with all 4 of his tentacled arms. The translation matrix rendered his fury into precise English. These humans think they can dictate terms to civilizations that mastered space travel while their ancestors were still climbing trees. The Corvin delegation clicked their approval, their chitinous mandibles creating a sound like grinding metal. Senator Vex Star of the Hegemony added his voice to the chorus. They arrived on chemical rockets barely 2 centuries ago. Now they demand restrictions on warfare that have governed galactic civilization for 50,000 years? Sarah's colleague, General Marcus Rodriguez, shifted slightly in his seat. She felt rather than saw his tension. 27 years of military service had taught him when to prepare for battle. But today was not that day. Today was about giving one final warning. The Altrurian speaker raised his crystalline form, light refracting through his body like a living prism. His telepathic voice resonated in every mind present. The human proposal is unusual. They ask us to limit orbital bombardments of civilian populations. They request restrictions on genetic warfare. They want protective treaties for non-combatant species. These concepts are foreign to established galactic law. Because galactic law is insane, Sarah said quietly, but her words carried clearly through the chamber's acoustics. The translation matrix ensured every species heard her in their native tongue. The chamber erupted. Delegates shrieked, roared, buzzed, and emitted frequencies that human ears couldn't detect. The draconian ambassador actually breathed a small puff of flame in indignation. "You dare call our ancient wisdom insane?" The Zeltharian Prime Minister's skin flushed from purple to deep crimson. "Your species has existed for a microscopic fraction of galactic history." Sarah stood slowly. At 5 feet 6 inches, she was dwarfed by most delegates present. The Draconians averaged 12 feet tall. The Corvin warriors were built like living tanks. Even the peaceful Altrurians towered above her crystalline forms. Yet somehow her small human frame commanded attention. "Our species is young," she agreed. "We've been in space for 200 of your years. But in those 2 centuries, we've fought exactly 3 interstellar conflicts. Do you know how many conflicts the Galactic Council has overseen in the same period?" The Altrurian speaker's form dimmed slightly. 743 separate wars. And how many civilian casualties? Approximately 400 billion beings. 400 billion. Sarah let the number hang in the air. In 200 years. While humanity has killed perhaps 10 million of our own kind in space conflicts, mostly military personnel. The Corvin delegate laughed, a sound like breaking rocks. "Because you're weak. You lack the will to properly prosecute warfare." "No," General Rodriguez said, rising to stand beside Sarah. His dress uniform bore ribbons from conflicts most aliens had never heard of. "Because we choose restraint." "Restraint?" The Draconian ambassador's voice dripped contempt. "You mean cowardice!" Rodriguez's smile was cold. "I fought in the Proxima campaign, 30,000 human soldiers against 300,000 Zephyrian warriors. We won. I commanded the assault on the Kepler defense grid. Impossible odds. My people called me a hero. But do you know what we didn't do?" The chamber waited. "We didn't glass their homeworlds. We didn't release plagues. We didn't hunt down their civilians. We fought soldiers and military targets. That's what we call warfare." "Inefficient," clicked Senator Vexitar. In galactic warfare, you destroy the enemy's ability to make war by destroying the enemy entirely. It ends conflicts faster. And creates new ones, Sarah interjected. Your method of warfare has kept this galaxy in constant conflict for 50 millennia. Ours might actually bring peace. The laughter that erupted was deafening. Delegates of a dozen species openly mocked the human delegation. The Corvan representative stood, his massive frame casting shadows across their section. Humans, your naivety is almost charming. But this is reality. War is about total victory. The strong survive and expand. The weak are consumed. This is galactic law. This is natural order. Sarah reached into her briefcase and withdrew a single data pad. Before we arrived, how many species had achieved interstellar flight? 12,407, the Altrurian speaker replied. And now? A pause. Approximately 8,300. 4,000 species extinct in 50,000 years of natural order, Rodriguez said grimly. Entire civilizations erased because someone wanted their resources or living space. The weak were replaced by the strong, the Zeltharian Prime Minister declared. Evolution in action. Sarah activated her datapad. The chamber's main display illuminated with Earth's image, blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. This is our home world. 3 years ago, your intelligence services estimated its defenses. What was the consensus? Uncomfortable silence spread through the chamber. Finally, the Altrurian speaker answered, minimal orbital platforms, limited planetary shields, estimated conquest time for a moderate force, 6 standard days. And yet, Sarah said softly, no one has tried. Because you offer nothing of value, scoffed the draconian ambassador. Or because you're afraid, Rodriguez suggested quietly. The chamber exploded again, but this time with rage rather than laughter. Accusations of cowardice flew in dozens of languages. The Corvan delegate actually challenged Rodriguez to single combat, which the human politely declined. When order restored itself, Sarah continued. 3 times in the past 50 years, galactic powers have approached our borders with aggressive intent. The hegemony wanted to test our defenses during the Outer Rim expansion. The Zephyrian Empire decided we'd make good slaves. The Corvan clans thought our world would make an excellent military base. And each time, Rodriguez added, we sent them a single message. We are currently operating under rules of engagement designed to minimize casualties and preserve civilian populations. Any aggressive action toward humanity or our allies will result in the immediate suspension of these restrictions. Empty threats, declared Senator Vexitar. Were they? Sarah asked. Because all 3 powers decided our little backwater world wasn't worth the trouble after all. The Zeltharian Prime Minister's tentacles writhed with agitation. You expect us to believe that warnings from primitives deterred major galactic powers? I expect you to believe the evidence, Sarah replied. But apparently subtlety isn't working. So let me be more direct. She stood and walked to the center of the chamber, where her small human form was surrounded by hundreds of alien delegates representing the galaxy's mightiest civilizations. Humanity has been operating under self-imposed restrictions since we entered galactic society. We follow rules of warfare designed to minimize suffering and preserve civilian life. We limit our weapons technology to avoid unnecessary destruction. We restrain our military responses to avoid escalation. We've tried to show you a better way. Her voice carried clearly in the vast chamber. But those restrictions are voluntary. They exist because we choose mercy over efficiency, honor over victory, restraint over dominance. We've spent 2 centuries trying to convince you to adopt similar limitations. General Rodriguez joined her in the center of the chamber. Today, the Galactic Council voted 847 to 12 to reject every proposed restriction on warfare. You've decided that the current system of total war is preferable to our suggestions for limited conflict. Because your suggestions are naive fantasy, the Corvin delegate growled. Then we withdraw them, Sarah said simply. The chamber fell silent. As of this moment, humanity formally withdraws all proposals for military restrictions and rules of engagement. We will no longer advocate for the protection of civilian populations during warfare. We will not suggest limitations on orbital bombardment, genetic warfare, or planet-killing weapons. We accept the galaxy's decision that such concepts are unnecessary. She paused, letting her words register. We also withdraw our voluntary adherence to these same restrictions. The silence stretched longer. Furthermore, Rodriguez added, humanity hereby serves formal notice that we consider the galaxy's rejection of protective measures to be a declaration that no such protections exist for any species, including our own. What exactly are you saying? The Altrorian speaker asked, his crystalline form flickering with uncertain light. Sarah's smile was perfectly polite and absolutely terrifying. We're saying that if anyone wants to test humanity's capabilities under unrestricted warfare, we'll be happy to provide a demonstration. You threaten the entire galaxy? The draconian ambassador's wings spread wide in aggressive display. We don't threaten anyone, Rodriguez replied. We're simply informing you that the rules have changed. For 2 centuries, we've operated under restrictions designed to minimize casualties and preserve life. You've unanimously rejected those concepts, so we're adopting your approach instead. Sarah returned to her seat, gathering her materials. When humanity first reached the stars, we made a choice. We could become conquerors, using our natural advantages to dominate and destroy. Or we could become protectors, using those same advantages to defend and preserve. We chose protection. She stood again, briefcase in hand. But protection requires that others value what you're trying to protect. Since you don't, there's no point in continuing the effort. The delegates watched in growing unease as the human delegation prepared to leave. Wait, the Altrurian speaker called. You speak of natural advantages. What advantages could a species as young and primitive as yours possess? Sarah paused at the chamber's exit. When she turned back, her expression was almost sad. That's the problem with thinking you know everything, she said quietly. You never bother to learn what you don't know. Enlighten us, demanded the Zeltharian Prime Minister. Rodriguez spoke with the voice of a career soldier. Every species in this galaxy evolved under different conditions. The Draconians come from a high-gravity world with volcanic activity. They're strong but slow to adapt. The Corvin developed in low-gravity asteroid belts, excellent reflexes but fragile in heavy combat. The Altrurians evolved as energy beings, incredible mental capacity but limited physical options. And humans? Prompted Senator Vextar. Humans, Sarah said softly, evolved on a planet that was actively trying to kill us. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, massive predators, climate shifts, disease, natural disasters. For 3 million years, Earth threw everything it had at us. She walked back toward the center of the chamber. Do you know what that creates? A species that's adaptable beyond measure. A species that treats the impossible as merely inconvenient. A species that looks at overwhelming odds and asks not, can we win, but how do we win? Rodriguez nodded grimly. Other species develop 1 or 2 advantages: strength, or speed, or intelligence, or psychic ability. Humans developed flexibility. We can think our way out of problems that would destroy other species. We can adapt to conditions that would kill most civilizations. We can endure losses that would break most armies. But most importantly, Sarah added, we can choose restraint when we have the power to destroy. That's what we've been trying to teach you. The chamber was dead silent now. But you don't want to learn. You prefer the old ways. Total warfare, absolute destruction. No limitations, no mercy, no quarter. She reached the exit again. So be it. But remember, you chose this. When the restraints come off, when the rules disappear, when warfare becomes truly unlimited, you asked for this. The human delegation disappeared through the exit portal, leaving behind a chamber full of representatives who suddenly realized they might have made a serious mistake. In the silence that followed, the Altrurian speaker's voice resonated with new uncertainty. Perhaps we should reconsider some of their proposals. But it was too late. The vote had been taken. The decision was final. Humanity had offered peace, protection, and restraint. The galaxy had chosen war without limits. Now they would learn what that really meant. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UNSC Prometheus, watching the tactical display with calm eyes. 6 months had passed since the diplomatic incident at the Galactic Council, and the galaxy had been surprisingly quiet. Perhaps their warning had been taken seriously after all. Then the emergency beacon activated. "Admiral, we're receiving a distress signal from the Kepler colony," Communications Officer Park announced. "Colony ships, mining vessels, and civilian transports under attack by unknown forces. Classification of attacking vessels? Corvin heavy cruisers, ma'am. 3 battle groups, approximately 90 ships total. They're glassing the civilian installations." Elena's jaw tightened. Kepler was a human agricultural colony with 2 million civilians, including families with children. It was also officially a non-military target under even the most basic rules of engagement. "Time to intercept?" "At maximum burn, 18 hours. They'll be finished in 6, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim observed grimly from the tactical station. Elena stared at the display for a long moment. The Corvin clans had decided to test humanity's resolve by hitting a soft target. They probably expected a strongly worded diplomatic protest and perhaps economic sanctions. They were about to learn how badly they'd miscalculated. "All hands, battle stations," Elena announced over the ship's comm system. "Set course for Kepler system, maximum burn. Signal the fleet. All available vessels to converge on our position." "Ma'am," Park said hesitantly. "Should I contact Earth for authorization?" Elena's smile was ice cold. "Officer Park, the Corvin clans have just attacked a civilian population with no military value and no strategic importance. Under the previous rules of engagement, I would need authorization to respond with proportional force to military targets only." She turned to face her bridge crew. But the galaxy voted to reject those rules. They chose unlimited warfare over restricted conflict. The Corvins have just demonstrated exactly what that means. She walked to her command chair, her voice carrying clearly to every station on the bridge. "Signal Earth that we are implementing Protocol 7. No authorization required, no restrictions in place, no quarter asked or given." The bridge fell silent. Protocol 7 had been theoretical until now, a contingency plan created after humanity's diplomatic warning fell on deaf ears. It was their answer to the galaxy's preference for total warfare. "Ma'am," Kim said quietly, "Protocol 7 authorizes complete elimination of enemy forces and infrastructure with no regard for proportionality or civilian considerations," Elena finished. "The same rules the galaxy chose to embrace." The Prometheus shuddered as her massive engines reached full power. Around them, space began to fill with human vessels emerging from hyperspace. Cruisers, destroyers, assault carriers, and ships whose classifications were classified even from most human military personnel. "Fleet status?" Elena asked. 47 vessels confirmed, more jumping in every minute. "The Beijing is requesting permission to deploy special package weapons." Elena considered this. Special package weapons were humanity's answer to the galaxy's preference for overwhelming force. They'd been developed after studying 50,000 years of galactic warfare and designed specifically to counter the tactics that had kept the galaxy in constant conflict. "Permission granted. Signal all fleet commanders. Weapons free, no restrictions, no survivors. 3 hours out from Kepler system, they encountered the first Corvin picket ships. Unknown vessels, identify yourself, came the standard Corvin challenge. This system is under clan sovereignty by right of conquest. Commander Torres at Communications looked to Elena. She nodded. Corvan vessels, this is Admiral Vasquez of the United Nations Space Command. You have attacked civilian populations in violation of our previous agreements. We are here to respond under the new rules of engagement you requested. Human vessel, withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Your species lacks the strength for true warfare. Elena's laugh was genuinely amused. Corvan vessel, you're about to learn something about human strength that we've kept hidden for 2 centuries. The Corvan response was predictable. A full alpha strike from their heaviest weapons. Plasma cannons capable of melting through starship armor struck the Prometheus with enough energy to destroy most capital ships. The Prometheus didn't even slow down. Corvan shield technology, Elena explained conversationally to her bridge crew, designed to deflect energy weapons by redistributing impact across crystalline matrices. Very effective against galactic standard weapons. The human fleet opened fire, not with plasma cannons or particle beams or any of the energy weapons the galaxy had perfected over millennia. They fired solid projectiles, chunks of metal accelerated to significant fractions of light speed, kinetic weapons. The galaxy had abandoned them 20,000 years ago as primitive and inefficient. That had been a mistake. The Corvan shields, designed to deflect energy, did absolutely nothing against solid matter traveling at relativistic speeds. The picket ships disintegrated as if they were made of paper. Continue to primary target, Elena ordered calmly. They reached Kepler system to find exactly what she'd expected. 3 Corvan battle groups had indeed been glassing the civilian installations. Agricultural domes burned. Mining stations were reduced to slag, and civilian ships drifted dead in space. But the attack was still in progress. Apparently, the Corvans had decided to take their time, making sure every human installation was completely destroyed before moving on. Fleet deployment? Elena asked. Battle groups Alpha through Delta in position. Gamma group holding at system perimeter to prevent escape. Special packages ready for deployment. Elena studied the tactical display. 90 Corvan ships in 3 concentrated groups, precisely positioned to maximize destruction of human civilian targets. Their formation was perfect for orbital bombardment and completely vulnerable to what humanity was about to unleash. Signal all civilian vessels in the system to evacuate immediately to minimum safe distance. Broadcast in all languages. Ma'am, there are no civilian vessels left, Park reported quietly. The Corvans were thorough. Elena closed her eyes for a moment. 2 million people, families, children, scientists, farmers, teachers, all dead because the galaxy preferred unlimited warfare to reasonable restrictions. Very well. Fleet commanders, you are authorized to demonstrate galactic standard warfare to the Corvan clans. Show them what unlimited conflict really means. The human fleet dispersed to attack positions. The Corvan commanders, apparently confident after their easy victory over defenseless civilians, turned to engage what they assumed would be another quick battle. They had not done their homework on human military capabilities. The first indication that something was wrong came when their sensors detected massive energy buildups throughout the human fleet. Not from weapons charging, from power cores running far beyond normal parameters. "What are they doing?" demanded clan leader Vorthak from the Corvan flagship. "Their energy output is off our charts." "Unknown, clan leader, but no ship can maintain that power level without destroying itself." They were about to learn that human ships were built to different standards than the rest of the galaxy. Every human vessel in the fleet simultaneously opened fire with weapons the galaxy had never seen. Not energy weapons, not projectile weapons, but something that seemed to bend space itself. The attacks didn't travel through space. They folded it. 12 Corvin heavy cruisers simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not damaged. They were there one moment and gone the next, leaving behind only expanding clouds of atomic particles. "Impossible!" Vorthak roared. "Report! What happened to Battle Group Talon?" "Clan leader. They're gone. Completely atomized. I've never seen weapons like these. Return fire. All ships, maximum firepower." The Corvin fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma bombardment that could melt continents, particle beams capable of cracking moons, gravitational weapons that could destabilize star systems. The human ships absorbed it all without apparent damage. "Clan leader, their ships, our weapons aren't affecting them." "That's impossible. Nothing can withstand that much firepower." Commander Torres turned to Elena. "Should I explain, ma'am?" Elena nodded. "Open a channel to the Corvin flagship. Clan leader Vorthak, this is Admiral Vasquez. You seem confused about human defensive capabilities." "What sorcery is this? No known technology can create such shields." "You're right," Elena agreed. "No known galactic technology can create such shields. But humans didn't use galactic technology. We developed our own." She gestured to the tactical display, where human ships continued to shrug off weapons that could destroy planets. "You see, clan leader, when humanity entered galactic society, we studied your warfare extensively. 50,000 years of conflict, billions of casualties, entire species extinct. We realized your methods were not just brutal. They were inefficient. Another wave of human attacks eliminated 20 more Corvin ships with the same casual ease as swatting flies. So we developed countermeasures. Every human ship is equipped with shields specifically designed to defeat every weapon system in galactic use. Our hulls are made from materials that can survive direct stellar impacts. Our weapons are calibrated to overcome every known defensive system in the galaxy." But this is impossible," Vorthak protested. "Such technology would take millions of years to develop." "For most species, yes," Elena agreed. "But humans are very good at learning from other people's mistakes. We had 50,000 years of galactic warfare to study, remember? We just had to figure out how to do it better." The human fleet moved into close combat range, their massive ships dwarfing even the largest Corvin vessels. The size difference was deliberate. Human ships were built for extended campaigns in hostile space, not quick raids on defenseless targets. "Clan leader," Elena continued conversationally, "you attacked civilian targets because you thought they were easy prey. You probably expected us to file a diplomatic protest and perhaps impose trade sanctions." The remaining Corvin ships tried to flee, but found their escape routes blocked by the human ships positioned at the system perimeter. "But you forgot something important. You voted to reject all restrictions on warfare. No protection for civilians, no limitations on weapons, no quarter given or asked." Elena's voice turned cold. "So we're going to demonstrate what unrestricted warfare actually looks like." The human fleet deployed their special package weapons, devices that had been theoretical until this moment. They didn't just destroy the remaining Corvin ships. They destroyed the space the ships occupied, creating temporary tears in reality itself that pulled everything within a significant radius into dimensional collapse. When it was over, there was nothing left of the Corvin battle groups, not wreckage, not debris, not even atomic particles, just empty space where 90 warships had been moments before. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Kim, We erased them completely." "Signal the fleet," Elena ordered. "Jump to the Corvin home system. Inform Clan Central Command that they have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally, or we will demonstrate human weapons technology on a planetary scale." "Admiral," Park said hesitantly, "the Corvin homeworld has 4 billion inhabitants." "The Kepler colony had 2 million inhabitants," Elena replied without emotion. "The Corvins didn't seem concerned about civilian casualties when they were the ones causing them." She turned to address her bridge crew directly. Understand something, all of you. For 2 centuries, humanity chose restraint over victory, mercy over efficiency, protection over domination. We tried to teach the galaxy a better way. She gestured toward the tactical display, where the Kepler colony's ruins still burned in the distance. This is what the galaxy chose instead. This is the unlimited warfare they voted to embrace. We're simply giving them exactly what they asked for. The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind a star system that would serve as a lesson to the rest of the galaxy. The Corvins had wanted to test human resolve. They had discovered instead that humanity's restraint was not weakness. It was mercy. And mercy, as they were about to learn, was something humans could choose to withdraw. The Corvin homeworld of Thextar hung in space like a brown and orange jewel, its 3 moons orbiting in perfect synchronization. 4 billion Corvin citizens lived on the planet's surface, going about their daily lives unaware that their military's attack on human civilians had set in motion events that would reshape galactic civilization forever. Admiral Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, studying the tactical display. The human fleet had taken position throughout the Thextar system, their ships forming a sphere around the planet with mathematical precision. Each vessel was positioned to ensure complete coverage. Nothing would escape if the Corvins chose to ignore humanity's ultimatum. 53 minutes remaining, reported Communications Officer Park. The Corvin response had been predictably defiant. Clan Central Command had denounced humanity as primitive mammals with delusions of grandeur and promised that their home fleet would crush the upstart species back into the primordial ooze where they belonged. That home fleet was impressive by galactic standards. Over 300 ships, including massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed the vessels that had been destroyed at Kepler. They were arranging themselves in defensive formation around Thextar, confident that sheer numbers would overwhelm the 47 human ships. Admiral, Lieutenant Commander Kim said quietly, long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements throughout Corvin space. They're calling in every available ship. Elena nodded. How many? Conservative estimate, over 1,000 vessels inbound. They're mobilizing their entire military for this engagement. Expected arrival time? 6 hours for the nearest battle groups, 18 hours for full deployment. Elena studied the tactical display thoughtfully. The Corvins were doing exactly what humans had expected, escalating the conflict by committing everything they had. It was classic galactic warfare doctrine: throw overwhelming force at the problem until it went away. Signal Earth Command, Elena ordered. Request immediate deployment of 2nd and 3rd Fleet. Full Protocol 7 authorization. Park's hands hesitated over his console. Admiral, that's our entire deep space navy. Every ship we have. The Corvins are about to commit their entire civilization to this battle, Elena replied calmly. It seems appropriate that we match their commitment. She turned to address the bridge crew. Ladies and gentlemen, what happens in the next few hours will determine the future of this galaxy. For 50,000 years, galactic civilization has been trapped in a cycle of unlimited warfare that has destroyed entire species and consumed countless billions of lives. She gestured toward the planet below. The Corvins represent that old way of thinking: total war, complete destruction, no mercy for civilians or non-combatants. They attacked our people because they thought we were weak. They're about to mobilize their entire military because they think numbers will save them. Elena walked to the center of the bridge. But humanity learned a long time ago that warfare isn't about who has the most ships or the biggest guns. It's about who's willing to do what needs to be done to protect what matters most. An urgent chime from the tactical station interrupted her speech. Admiral, incoming transmission from the planet's surface. It's not from Clan Central Command. Put it through. The main display activated, revealing a Corvin civilian in simple robes. Her carapace bore the blue markings of the academic caste, and her mandibles clicked nervously as she spoke. Human Fleet Commander. I am Scholar Zex Thera of the Thextar University. I speak for a coalition of civilian organizations on the planet's surface. Elena was surprised. In her experience, Corvan society was strictly hierarchical with absolute military control. Civilians didn't typically have access to interstellar communications, let alone the authority to contact enemy fleets. Scholar Zex Thara, this is Admiral Vasquez. What can I do for you? Admiral, many of us have been monitoring the communications from the Kepler system. We know what our military did to your civilians. We also know what you did to our battle groups in response. The scholar's image flickered slightly. She was broadcasting without official authorization and probably had limited time before being discovered. We wish to formally protest the actions of Clan Central Command. The attack on your colony was unprovoked and violated even our own traditional codes of honor. Many of us disagree with our leadership's decision to escalate this conflict. Elena exchanged glances with her senior staff. This was unexpected and complicated. Scholar, I appreciate your position, but your government has refused our ultimatum and is mobilizing their entire military for this engagement. I cannot allow that threat to humanity to continue. We understand, but Admiral, there are 4 billion civilians on this planet. Many of us had no knowledge of the attack on your people and no voice in the decision to continue this war. Elena closed her eyes for a moment. This was exactly the kind of moral complexity that humanity's old rules of engagement had been designed to address. Under their previous restrictions, she would evacuate civilians, target only military installations, and attempt to minimize casualties. But the galaxy had rejected those restrictions. They had chosen unlimited warfare over controlled conflict. Scholar, 48 hours ago, the Galactic Council voted overwhelmingly to reject all proposals for protecting civilian populations during warfare. Your own representatives were among the most vocal opponents of such restrictions. Yes, I know, and many of us believe that decision was wrong. Elena's voice softened slightly. Scholar, I wish I could offer you the protection that humanity advocated for at the Council. But your civilization chose a different path. Now we're all bound by the rules your leaders selected. The transmission cut out suddenly, replaced by a very different voice, the harsh tones of clan leader Supreme Cortex himself. Human Admiral, you will cease communication with civilian populations immediately. This is a military engagement between warrior castes. Non-combatants are not involved. Elena's laugh was bitter. Clan leader, your forces specifically targeted civilian populations at Kepler. Farmers, teachers, children. You made them combatants when you chose to murder them. Those were necessary casualties in legitimate warfare. Under whose definition? You voted against any restrictions that would have protected them. You chose unlimited conflict over controlled engagement. Now, you get to live with the consequences. The display switched back to the tactical view. Throughout the system, the human fleet was receiving reinforcements as Second and Third Fleet emerged from hyperspace. Elena watched with grim satisfaction as humanity's true naval strength revealed itself. 237 vessels, every major capital ship in human space, supported by countless smaller vessels and specialized craft that most of the galaxy had never seen. The Corvans had been expecting a minor skirmish with a primitive species. Instead, they were facing the concentrated military might of a civilization that had spent 2 centuries preparing for exactly this moment. Fleet deployment complete, reported Commander Torres. All vessels report ready for full engagement. Corvan reinforcements? 943 ships confirmed, with more arriving hourly. They're completely surrounding the system. Elena nodded. The Corvans had indeed committed everything, their entire military, their entire civilization, to this single battle. It was exactly what humanity had expected them to do. Signal all fleet commanders, she ordered. Commence Operation Tabula Rasa. The human fleet spread out into a formation that encompassed the entire star system. Not just around the planet, around everything. Every moon, every asteroid, every piece of space debris larger than a basketball found itself under the guns of a human warship. "What are they doing?" demanded Clan Leader Supreme Cortex from his flagship. "Why are they positioning themselves throughout the entire system?" He was about to find out. The human fleet opened fire simultaneously, but not at the Corvan ships. Instead, they targeted every piece of matter in the system that wasn't an inhabited planet. Moons disintegrated under focused gravitational weapons. Asteroid belts simply ceased to exist as matter conversion beams reduced them to their component atoms. Space stations, orbital platforms, mining installations, all of it vanished in a precisely coordinated display of overwhelming firepower. "Report!" Cortex screamed. "What's happening to our infrastructure?" Clan Leader, "They're destroying everything. Every military installation, every orbital facility, every asteroid mine. But they're not targeting populated areas or our ships." Elena's voice came over the communications system, calm and professional. "Clan Leader Cortex, you are witnessing a demonstration of what unrestricted warfare actually means. Your civilization chose to reject all limitations on military engagement. Very well. Under unlimited warfare doctrine, every resource that could potentially be used for military purposes is a legitimate target." As she spoke, human ships continued their methodical destruction of everything in the system except the inhabited planets and the Corvan fleet. Your asteroid mines could be used to build ships. Your orbital platforms could be converted to weapons. Your space-based infrastructure could support military operations. Under the rules you chose, all of it must be eliminated. "This is insane," Cortex protested. "You're destroying resources that took us centuries to build." "Yes," Elena agreed. "Just as your forces destroyed resources at Kepler that took humans decades to build. The difference is that our targets are military in nature. Yours were civilian." The demonstration continued for 3 hours. By the time it was complete, the Thextar system had been stripped of everything except the inhabited planets and the increasingly nervous Corvan fleet. "Now," Elena announced, "let's discuss the future of galactic warfare." She activated a fleet-wide communications system that broadcast to every ship in the system, both human and Corvan. For 50,000 years, this galaxy has been trapped in a cycle of unlimited warfare that has destroyed entire civilizations. Humanity tried to offer you a different path: restricted conflict with protection for civilians and limitations on destructive weapons. The human fleet began moving into combat formation around the Corvan vessels. You rejected that offer. You chose instead to maintain the old ways of total war and unlimited destruction. But you made one critical error in that decision. Elena's voice carried clearly throughout both fleets. You assumed that humanity was advocating for restrictions because we were weak. You thought we wanted rules because we couldn't win without them. The first exchange of fire began as Corvan patience finally broke. Massive dreadnoughts launched everything they had at the human vessels, expecting to overwhelm them through sheer volume of firepower. The human ships didn't even slow down. "The truth," Elena continued as human weapons systematically dismantled the Corvan fleet with surgical precision, "is that humanity wanted restrictions because we were strong. We advocated for rules because we knew what would happen without them. Corvan ships died by the dozens, their advanced shields and armor proving completely ineffective against weapons that seemed to operate outside known physics. Meanwhile, human vessels absorbed punishment that should have destroyed them without showing any signs of damage. You see, we didn't develop our technology to defeat specific enemies. We developed it to defeat warfare itself. Every human ship is designed to end conflicts quickly and decisively. Every human weapon is calibrated to eliminate resistance with minimum expenditure of resources." The one-sided battle continued as the Corvan fleet, despite its numerical superiority, found itself completely outmatched. Their weapons couldn't penetrate human defenses. Their tactics couldn't compensate for the overwhelming technological disparity. Their numbers meant nothing against an enemy that could destroy dozens of ships with each attack. This is what unrestricted warfare looks like when practiced by a species that actually understands it, Elena announced as the last Corvan dreadnought broke apart under human fire. Total victory through absolute technological superiority. Clan leader Supreme Cortex found himself alone on the bridge of his flagship, the last surviving vessel of what had been the galaxy's third-largest military force. Around him, space was filled with the debris of nearly 1,000 destroyed warships. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." Elena's voice was almost gentle when she responded. "Clan leader, your civilization had 50,000 years to perfect the art of war. Humanity had 50,000 years of your wars to study and learn from. We simply learned better than you taught." She paused, letting the full magnitude of the Corvan defeat sink in. "Now, let's discuss the new rules of galactic warfare." Elena activated a galaxy-wide broadcast system, ensuring that every civilization in known space would receive her message. "This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the United Nations Space Command, speaking to all species and governments throughout the galaxy. 3 days ago, the Galactic Council voted to reject all restrictions on warfare and confirmed their preference for unlimited conflict." She gestured toward the debris field that had once been the Corvan fleet. "You have just witnessed humanity's response to that decision. We are no longer advocating for restrictions on warfare because, as you can see, we don't need them." The broadcast continued, carrying her words to every inhabited system in galactic space. "However, we are implementing new policies that all species will follow when interacting with humanity or our interests. First, any attack on human civilian populations will result in the complete elimination of the attacking species' military capabilities. Second, any attempt to develop weapons specifically designed to counter human technology will be considered an act of war. Third, any species that continues the previous practice of unlimited warfare against civilian populations will face immediate intervention by human forces." Elena walked to the center of the Prometheus's bridge, her image being transmitted across thousands of light years. "The age of unlimited warfare is over. Humanity gave you the opportunity to end it through peaceful agreement and voluntary restrictions. Since you chose to reject that option, we're ending it through superior force and mandatory compliance." She turned to address clan leader Cortex directly. "Clan leader, you have a choice to make. Your military no longer exists. Your orbital infrastructure has been eliminated, but your population survives because, unlike your forces at Kepler, we chose to spare civilian lives." Elena's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "You can accept humanity's protection and adopt our restrictions on warfare, or you can attempt to rebuild your military for future conflicts. Choose wisely. You won't get a third chance." The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. Within hours, responses began arriving from across known space. The Altrurian Assembly requested immediate talks about implementing human-style warfare restrictions. The Draconian Empire announced its intention to review current military policies in light of recent developments. Even the Hegemony, the galaxy's most militaristic government, sent diplomatic overtures suggesting renewed discussion of conflict limitation agreements. Elena stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching as human ships took up patrol positions throughout the Thextar system. They would remain here for now, ensuring that the Corvans understood their new position in the galaxy. "Admiral," Commander Torres asked quietly, "do you think it worked? Will this really end unlimited warfare?" Elena considered the question seriously. "Commander, for 50,000 years, the galaxy chose unlimited warfare because they thought it made them strong. Today they learned that unlimited warfare only makes you strong until you meet someone stronger. She turned to look out at the stars, where human ships were already dispersing to key positions throughout galactic space. Humanity tried to teach them through reason and diplomacy. Since that didn't work, we taught them through demonstration. They wanted to see what unrestricted warfare really looked like. Helena smiled grimly. Now they know. And now they'll choose differently. Not because they've suddenly developed morality, but because they've finally developed common sense. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about the difference between strength and cruelty, between power and wisdom. Humanity had warned them that restraint was a choice, not a weakness. Now, finally, they understood.